Welcome home, Raiders. Tonight, we are back with BattleNet Sports. We've got amazing Hearthstone stuff to talk about. We've got HGC back in the saddle of Phase 2. And, of course, the return of Overwatch League? Yes, all of that and so much more as Convert to Raid presents BattleNet Sports. Hi, everybody, and welcome to BattleNet Sports. Back from a little bit of a vacation, if you will, a week off, while I had to take care of some real-life matters and such. So we are coming back into BattleNet Sports. We need to catch up a little bit on HGC because we had the Western Clash was the last thing that we talked about. Eastern Clash, Gen G swept. I mean, it's kind of sad. And then now we're back into Phase 2, so it's time to cut the seed from the chat. I don't know exactly what that phrase is, but it's time to see who rises to the top and who may sink to the bottom and be challenged for HGC. Also, Overwatch League All-Stars and the World Cup are a thing, and so Fist will be back to talk about that momentarily. Until then, let's get started with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the part where we talk about Heroes of the Storm, HGC action, and of course, with us we have Jules Scott. You know Jules Scott. She is a part of Torrent Think Tank, and she is part of the Nerf This crew, and she also does her Heroes News with Jules Scott. It's Jules Scott. Hey, Jules.
Hi. Hi, I'm Jules Scott. It's nice to meet you.
So, how is the new show going? How is Heroes News going?
It's going wonderfully. The show has been just really well received, and I get to talk to really awesome people in the Heroes Pro community and the caster community. So, it is like the only big challenge that I have is like when I record everything on Wednesdays, I pray that there's not like a news drop that happens right in the middle of my recording session, which has happened already once.
Right. That's always the difficult part.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about HGC because we went through the clashes. We went through the Western and the Eastern, and now we're back into Phase 2 for the second half of that stuff. Catch us up. What's been the haps so far?
We're like racing down the road to BlizzCon now, and So this is the last push before playoffs for the pros. And every game matters, especially for those that are sitting at the bottom 4, because this is the time when if you don't make it out of 7th or 8th place, you're facing off against an open division team that could take your spot away. So everything matters. Phase 2 has been pretty interesting for both divisions, but week 6 of Phase 2, right, which is what this was.
Yeah.
In North America, we definitely had some fireworks happen because there was like number 1, number 2, Heroes Hearth and Tempo Storm take on each other like right away. That's the game that we got on Saturday. We were like, oh, okay, we're going to see this now, which usually seems to kind of happen towards the end of the season, but games are set ahead of time. So you don't know where everyone's going to rank out.
Right.
And, so Heroes Hearth walks in there, and they're undefeated in the NA division. And Tempo Storm has only lost to Heroes Hearth, and so everyone's kind of watching to see what's going to happen. And it turned out to be Tempo Storm who came out the victor in a 5-game set of that matchup, and it was awesome to watch. Like really, really good matches, and something for the VODs if you want to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to say how dominant these two teams are is not really giving them justice, because I mean they're like Heroes Hearth is plus 20 games above whatever, and Tempo Storm is +12. So I mean, it's the numbers are there. They're crushing their competitors pretty well. So,
yes.
Very
dominant teams in the North American division.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much guaranteed that you're going to see both of them at BlizzCon, barring some really massive surprises happening in the next several weeks before we get to playoffs. So that was the big match of the week. And it was a surprise. People were expecting Heroes Hearth to be the ones to come in as the victor. But there's been a lot of pressure on Heroes Hearth's shoulders, being now the number one, undefeated. So there's extra pressure on them. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see them take a little bit of a sigh of relief now that they've got that loss now under their belt. They're not trying to maintain a perfect record, and now they can just play the game.
Sure. That would be great.
Yeah.
And just as a note, I know that you were talking about, the bottom couple of teams starting to get nervous about what's happening there. And the two at the bottom right now are LFM Esports and No Tomorrow. And I just kind of think it's fitting that No Tomorrow is on the bottom because there might not be one for them.
That might be very true, but
I just thought it was funny. That's all.
But LFM took on a new player starting this week. Actually, Dark Chimera came in to replace their support player Aware, who left because he retired from HOTS. He got a great job opportunity and he left on good terms.
Right.
But the team had to find a new support, which means that you've got to find your synergy again. But they actually did a really good job of keeping up with Team Freedom on Sunday. LFM did, and they almost won. Nice. So even though they sit in 7th place, I still think there's somebody that you should be watching as potentially a team that could really kind of rise up. Because right now it's Simplicity, LFM, and No Tomorrow in the bottom 3. And LFM still does have a shot. I know I keep saying this about them. I have this little soft spot for LFM because they're just fighters.
Right.
They are.
Right. Well, and I guess it kind of depends on what their schedule is going to be like over the next few weeks and really kind of checking that out. And because if they're going to be going up against the 4, 5, 6s of, the middle of the bunch, there is a chance that they can peg up and maybe get out of the basement a little bit. So that would be good.
Yeah. They've got to face Tempo Storm this week, so that's not going to be so easy for them.
No, it is not.
It's going to be kind of hard.
It's going to be a little harsh. All right. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the EU. What's going on over there?
So Dignitas is still on top, way, way, way on top.
Right.
They're still undefeated, number 1. And when everything's kicked off, it was Leftovers who still remain the surprise. They're the ones that took on Method. They took them to 5 games. Method did win, but Leftovers, they're still looking really good. And right now we're looking at Dignitas, Liquid, and Method in 1, 2, 3. And actually the big news was oh my gosh, Dignitas actually lost a map this week to Fnatic. But top 3 pretty much locked in unless, again, something really strange happens, which it can. I mean, it's that's why they play the games, because you want to see how it turns out. But your bottom 3 is going to be Granite Gaming, Monkey Menagerie, and Roll20 Esports. Roll20 Esports, by the way, since I wasn't here last week, Roll20 is the former Zealots roster. Gotcha. And they were acquired by Roll20 Esports, who used to have a team in North America earlier on this year. So if you hear that name, you're like, huh? They acquired a new roster. So they're back.
Cool. Yeah. But maybe not for long, because they're 0-8. And so it's kind of tough to pull yourself out of that. I don't know.
I spoke to Nolan T. Jones, who is the owner of Roll20 Esports, last week for Heroes News, and he truly believes that they are a LAN roster, that they have tremendous talent, and that they just have had a bad run, and that they wouldn't have acquired and sponsored a team that they didn't think had a potentially a good chance. But they still they've got to prove themselves now. And if they don't make it out of, 7th, 8th place, they're going to have to prove themselves to stay in.
Right.
So it's not going to be an easy road for those guys. And I feel for them.
And that's When does that happen? When does the Crucible stuff happen?
So Crucible starts early October.
Okay.
So that right now what has to happen is that the Open Division, they just finished their 7 Cup series for points accumulation between the two regions. And so now you've got your top 8, and then playoffs happen next week for who's going to be the top 2. And then those teams get to select who they're going to face off. Like number 1 seed gets to pick who they get to face off against in the Crucible. It's not the HTC team that gets to pick. Right. It's the usurper. And
that's kind of cool. That's kind of like, calling them out on the playground, and it's like, whoa.
Yep. Like we choose you, Pikachu.
We think we can beat you guys.
And that's exactly how it should be done. Like we think we've got the best chance of beating you to take your spot and take your money.
Right.
So,
right.
So that's going to happen in early October will be the actual Crucible. So right now we've got to have all of the rest of HTC played out, which is the end of this month, or not this month, but almost this month, September.
Sure.
And then we'll have playoffs happen for HTC, and then the Crucible happens.
Gotcha. And we will keep everybody in the loop as far as all that stuff goes as we kind of mow through. Anything else as far as HGC stuff goes for this week?
Well, for this week, coming up this weekend, I'm going to give you the games that I think you should be watching.
Oh, yeah. Please do. Yes, week 7.
Yeah, so week 7, you should catch Leftovers versus Fnatic on Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, and Team Liquid versus Dignitas Saturday at 11 a.m. Central.
Okay.
And then North America, Team Freedom versus Tempo Storm on Friday at 4 p.m., and Endemic versus Team Freedom on Saturday at 4, and Octalysis versus Endemic Sunday at 4. So these are the games that I'd say would have the most fireworks, most possibilities for upsets.
So you're still like an Octalysis and Endemic as far as like upset picks for, just kind of, this week anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Octalysis and Endemic is one of those teams that you just don't know what you're gonna get. They're fighters and they work really hard, but they missed their spot in Western Clash, and they're pissed about it. Like they want BlizzCon bad, and Octalysis got the spot, and so there's a grudge there, and it'll bring some fireworks, I think.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's it for this week. You can also, we talked about No Tomorrow a little bit. You will hear an interview with Jin from No Tomorrow that I did. So if you want to listen to what it's like for an Open Division player to get the call to go up to HGC, that is going to be an interview you will want to listen to. It's Heroes News with Jules Scott.
Right. And of course, you can catch Heroes News with Jules Scott. And it's pretty cool. So it's like short programming, but a lot of meat in there. So make sure to pick it up wherever you get your podcasts. Jules Scott, thank you very much for your time today, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Let's talk a little bit of Hearthstone. It's been a couple of weeks since we've talked with Joss, and with a new expansion that just launched right before HCT Germany. Now we're starting to see what this new XPAC is doing, right, Joss?
A little bit, yeah. Okay. So we obviously had HCT Germany where we didn't have a whole lot of new decks. We talked about that last time. But since then, we had HCT Buenos Aires, which was a Copa event. And we saw a couple of changes, though I've got to say the big decks that were brought were still the same because they got kind of shored up as a result of Boomsday, as opposed to some totally new decks coming in. So we still saw Mally Druid being super, super popular. That deck is pretty refined now. We've got Felonious Floop giving them that kind of extra win condition there. I know you can't really say that seriously. Like, I really want to talk to the Hearthstone team and be like, dudes, you're making my job really hard because no one's going to take me seriously when I keep saying floop, 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 floop.
By the way, that's totally a Dave Kosak card. If there was one card that Dave Kosak named, it was that one. That's what I'm betting.
For sure.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, Mally Druid's still really popular. But one thing we did see in Buenos Aires is that Hunter actually overtook Warlock as the second most popular class. So this is the first time since we've been doing Battle.net Sports where Warlock wasn't either first or second in terms of classes being brought. So yeah, this was huge for Hunter. They kind of went from bottom of the pack with Spell Hunter being slightly viable to now the second most popular class. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, it really. I mean, we haven't seen. Well, I haven't really played Hunter all that much. In the most recent expansions, I can't remember the last time that I had like a really solid Hunter deck, but I guess now it's around.
Yeah, there's two really solid Hunter decks right now. There is Spell Hunter because they got, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it now, but basically it's a 1-mana spell that allows them to actually discover a secret. And so that gives Spell Hunter just that extra little bit of flexibility, as well as just one more half-decent spell, because Spell Hunter, I think, in general, was kind of struggling to find which 30 spells were supposed to go in that deck.
Right.
So it gives them another option. It's early game and it allows them to have some flexibility so that they can kind of shore up against aggro, or like even snipe and misdirection are seeing play in some cases because of the new Hunter spell. So that deck is viable. It always kind of was viable. It was the go-to build, but now it's even more so. And then also the actually most popular Hunter deck is kind of a variation of the one that we had been talking about, which is the Death Rattle Recruit Hunter. So you've got the eggs and all the Death Rattle triggers. But the reason why that's so popular now is because of a Boomstay card. They now have Spider Bomb, which is the 2/2 mech with magnetic that when it dies, it destroys an enemy minion. But even without magnetic and with all the death rattle triggers, it actually gives hunters ridiculous amounts of removal because they can trigger their spider bombs without actually having to kill them. So they end up, going 2 for 1 in some cases, if not more. So it's made the deck very, very viable. And obviously Deathstalker Rexar, which lives in both Hunter decks, both versions of Hunter decks. Deathstalker Rexar is just so powerful in the late game.
Well, and so it seems like every week you bring up a very popular deck and I say, oh my gosh, I just played against that today. And as it turns out, I did play against the Spider Bomb Hunter build today, and I was very frustrated. But at the same time, I was just trying to complete my quest, which was to play class cards of whatever. And so I was like, I don't care if I lose. This is fine. I'm just collecting my loot, and then I'm going to get out of here because that would be frustrating to actually try to win against. So
yes, very much so. The other thing that we actually were seeing in HCT Buenos Aires, and this is across ladder, and I think we even talked about this at HCT Germany, is Giggling Inventor. It was the most popular rare in the tournament, which meant that the tech card Mossy Horror was the most popular epic. But Giggling Inventor, even the Hearthstone team has said that they are very aware of it. They don't necessarily think the card itself is overpowered, but it is seeing play in somewhere between 30 and 35% of decks on ladder. So this card is something, it's a neutral, so it's being played all over the place. And it's the 5-mana card. It summons a 2/1 minion and then 2 Annoyatrons. And it's everywhere. So they are aware of it. They're keeping an eye on it. But we're also seeing that in tournaments, obviously. So Giggling Inventor is probably the biggest card that we've seen make an impact in from Boomsday. It's everywhere. So but that's also like we're starting to see it, even though it is everywhere, it's seeing play in things like Shutterwalk Shamans and in zoo decks and just all over the place. So it's not necessarily, it's even in those Hunter decks I just talked about, but it just not necessarily that it's overpowered. It's just everywhere.
It's
so
full
we
powered.
might see a change. Yeah.
It's just full powered. I mean, when you get those 2 Annoyatrons, I mean, how can you not want that card in your deck, like every single deck? So
exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
It's pretty great.
So the one deck that we're speaking of Giggling Inventor and summoning mechs, the one deck that we did see was actually from our Buenos Aires winner, Lee, who played a mech warrior deck. And so I was actually really, really happy that this happened because, as you guys probably remember from a few episodes ago, I was saying that I think mech warrior is going to be powerful in this expansion. And it turns out that there is a build that's been fairly successful, and it includes probably the most new Boomsday cards out of any decks that we're seeing being played in HCT or HGG or any of that stuff right now. It has Eternium Rovers, which is the 1/3 that gives you armor when it takes damage. We're seeing Omega Assembly get played, which is interesting because the Omega cards were new with this expansion as well. They're the ones that have one effect if you play them early in the game, and if you have 10 mana crystals, then they have a more powerful effect. So Omega Assembly is the 1 mana discover a mech, but if you play it with 10 mana crystals, you get to keep all 3, which when combined with Dr. Boom, which is the new warrior hero, then all your mechs then get rushed. So it's a very, very powerful combination if you play it in the late game, but it can also, again, give you some flexibility against things like aggro. So playing a lot of those new mech cards, including also Dinomatic and War Gear, as well as Ziliax. And Ziliax is also seeing play all over the place because he's super powerful, especially when combined with Giggling Inventor that just gives you 2 mechs that you don't necessarily need to put into your deck.
Right.
So yeah, we're seeing a little bit of mech play, which is really, really nice.
Good. Now, at the same time, so the next HCT event is going to be in Canada, right?
It is. It is DreamHack Montreal. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to be attending. So yeah, I'm super, super excited. There's I think right now the registration's at about 150 players, and there's a lot of really big name players that are going to be there because obviously it's an HCT tour stop. So right. I'm very, very excited.
Right. And so that happens September 7th, right? That's when it starts?
Yeah, September 7th through 9th. So right. Friday through Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. But in the meantime, we've also got Hearthstone Global Games going on. What is the latest haps there?
So Hearthstone Global Games is right now in its 5th week, which means that next week is going to be the final elimination where we will get our top 16. But there's a lot of elimination matches going on. In fact, the US is playing right now for their tournament life. Woo! So yeah, as of right now, they are still in the competition. But they're literally playing right now, so I'm not really sure how that's going to go. If they win, so right now they're at a 2-2 record. If they win, they'll be at 3-2, and their losses are actually to China and the UK. China is undefeated in the tournament right now. The UK has already made it through. They're 4-1. So basically, the US has amazing tiebreakers. So if they are one of the teams that ends up going 4-2, they will probably make it through to the top 16. Canada is another team. They're at 2-2. They play tomorrow, and they unfortunately did lose to the Czech Republic and Vietnam. So even if they win, their tiebreakers aren't as good as the States, but hopefully, cross your fingers, they actually do make it through. I know I am. Right. But in terms of teams that already are through, so the 5-0 China, like I mentioned, and then the 4-1 teams are Taiwan, Ukraine, Chile, Singapore, Switzerland, the UK, and Bulgaria. So lots of kind of not necessarily lesser known countries. China's very well known for their Hearthstone scene, but some of the ones that you would kind of expect, like the Brazils and Argentinas, even the Canada and the US, Mexico, there's a lot of teams, as well as the Germanys and the Russias and, all the European countries. Sure. There's a lot of countries that you would think that have big name players that would make it through. And this is kind of what makes the global game so exciting, is you get to see a lot of players who might not necessarily have the means to travel to HCT events, or who kind of grind out in the Challenger series are getting, shown on screen and showing what they're made of. So I do really enjoy the global games. It introduces you to a lot of different players, especially this year with the new point system where you qualified through points as opposed to qualifying through a vote, a popular vote like it was last time. So there's some very good Hearthstone being played right now.
Very, very cool. And that will continue on, and we'll, of course, root for the NA. Always.
Obviously.
Yeah. All day NA. And we'll see if crossing our fingers helps any. All right. Anything else, Joss?
That's it for me. I'll see you in 2 weeks after HCT Montreal.
All right. Jocelyn Moffat, everybody, make sure to check her out on The Angry Chicken, and, of course, every single show and stream that she's on. For Azeroth is another one. Gamers In. I don't even know. There's so many things.
There's so many now.
All right. Well, thanks, Joss. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
It was a weekend of snipes and boops and bleeps and blops. Nope. Not all of that, some of that, maybe. But it was Overwatch All-Star Weekend, and so Thist is here. Thist, of course, you know from Lagging Balls and from Battle.net News. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
For welcoming me.
Yes. So I got to watch a lot of the highlights of the All-Star Weekend, but I believe you were kind of in it to win it. You were glued to the screen all weekend long.
How'd you know?
It was a wild guess.
I watched the whole thing both days.
So what were the highlights for you? What were some of the things that really stood out in your mind's eye?
For me, that's hard because the whole thing was just, I don't know, like the Overwatch League experience of my dreams. Like it was more relaxed, like everybody was, despite like everybody being like there to play or watch or cast like games, like video games that are like meant to be played to have fun. It actually seemed like everybody was having a lot of fun because the stakes weren't high or anything like that. Everything was just sort of like goofy. And, it was the last broadcast of the entire season of like the inaugural season of Overwatch.
Right.
And so everybody, it was a little bit sad, but they wanted to sort of end it on like a funny note. And it was great to see a lot of the players like Pine, doing their thing and smiling the whole time, and like, okay, the Widowmaker battle, like the 1v1.
Right.
I think for me, that was the highlight, not just because Surefour, my favorite player in the league, beat everybody and, like won the whole event.
Yep.
Which I told everybody that would happen. They're like, no, it's not going to happen. It's going to be.
Beat Carpe to win. So, I mean, Carpe's really awesome.
Carpe was amazing. He was incredible. He was landing these shots but no, Surefour took it. But the thing was like, that's kind of what everybody wants to see because like when you sort of isolate sniping, it really shows you just how skilled some of these players are. And it's hard to gauge how skilled a player is in the midst of a normal Overwatch League match because there's so much going on and they have to account for so many other people and they're relying on other teammates to make clean shots and stuff, and that's not always the case. But when it's 1v1 and it's up against like some of the best snipers in the whole league, it was just like everything you wanted to see, and like only headshots counted, so it had to be headshots.
Right.
And even though like some matches like were really, really serious, most of the time these guys are just grinning and emoting like hellos from like across the map and stuff like that. And the casters kept saying jiggle peek, which sounded really inappropriate, but it's like they need to like peek around corners to sort of gauge where everybody is, but they don't want to get hit, so they like go like this with their Widow just like really rapidly to try to negate headspace. I guess
they're trying to head fake them essentially.
Exactly.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't know, and it's just like they were just being goofy for a lot of it, and
it was actually really amazing. So for the Widow 1v1, it was really amazing how quick those Widows are.
Oh yeah.
Just in general, but I mean, because they had to do that, peek and kind of sneak
jiggle
back.
Peek.
Yeah, the jiggle peek. But it was more than just that, because when they came around the corner, they also had to jump back. They had to like get their scope, do a headshot, and jump out of the way, all within like a split second. So
yeah, I mean, like I think Surefour said something like it was sort of whoever could outsmart their opponent would win, because they're all excellent at aiming and delivering amazing headshots. But when it's 1v1 and it's like a map that both of the players are like intrinsically familiar with, like you kind of have to like pull out all the stops and like grapple in weird directions and do spins and weird things and like shoot people before you fall off a map, like it's that kind of stuff. So
yep. It
was just everything that I wanted to see, because when you're watching a regular Overwatch League match, you live for those like amazing snipe moments, So this was just all of that.
Yeah. But there was go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, it started off with Lucio Ball.
Yeah.
And that was all right. I think that was probably like my least favorite. I suck at Lucio Ball, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I thought it was pretty lame because Atlantic beat Pacific 2-1 and Geguri was on Pacific. So she still hasn't won anything.
Oh, man. Oh,
yeah,
that's tough.
But,
that's tough.
It was pretty cool to see Lucio Ball being played by professionals because they made it look easy when it is not easy.
And I would think that it would be kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bland with pros playing it only because it's kind of a limited game, you know? So it's
there's only so much you can do.
But
in
it's
that game.
fun. It's fun, you know?
Yeah.
And then you, of course, you had the Widow thing, and then you had the casters playing against each other, casters and analysts playing against. What was going on?
That was so funny. And Custa and Bishu were like,
they were casting.
They were casting, and they did such a great job. And the casters, I knew that. Like I follow all of them on social media, and I know that they often play. Like they're always playing Overwatch, you know.
Sure.
And I think as a good caster, you have to play the game that you're casting because it's like podcasting. Like you can't talk about something you don't play because, like, you know, you can learn all of the mechanics by reading about it and watching videos, but you will never really know what it's like unless you play. So they were amazing. The best part was when Monte Cristo was reported mid-game by the Blizzard client for sandbagging, which we, of course, know is teabagging. But I was really impressed by Puckett. He was an amazing Doomfist, and I was impressed by just, I don't know, Semler was amazing. I think he was playing Diva, and he just kept getting like ults, and there were a bunch of team kills on both sides, and I was just really impressed. But the thing that I loved most was just like all the trash talk that they were giving each other, and like when one team won, they would like stand up immediately and like start shouting at the other team, and you know, like just because there was no, I don't know, it was just like a fun time. There's no stakes. It was just all the casters having fun, and it was ridiculous, and I loved it.
Right, and then they did like a Mystery Heroes thing, and that was pretty fun as well. I got to see some highlights from that, like a Doomfist kill on Ilios that was pretty amazing, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was liking
Mystery
that
Heroes
stuff.
was cool. What else? Lockout Elimination was good. Basically, like any excuse to see pros play like sort of non-traditional heroes or like weird metas or weird compositions and stuff was amazing. Like Hammond was there, New Symmetra was there,
right?
And it was really amazing to see them because like you want to see the pros use all of the heroes, and I don't know, like every time that they bring out like a Torb or a Doomfist, like I'm learning how to use these heroes in a way that I never even imagined, you know, because they just know. Practice with it. So it was cool.
And you know, it's always fun when they get to use all of their, you know, get to take some of these tunes off of the select screen and actually use them. So it's good.
Exactly.
And then the next day, of course, the big game was Atlantic v Pacific.
Yes.
And it went. Was it 5 games or was it 4?
I
think it was 5. And
yes, because it came down to a 4-1 win.
Right. And Atlantic won.
They surely did. I kind of knew it. Like it was mostly NYXL, so you kind of have to assume. But still, like it was, I don't know, it was cool to see. Honestly, it wasn't that cool. Like it was an awesome game, and it was really exciting, but all of the stuff on the Saturday was way better. It was just,
it's just, I don't know. It's fun. It was fun and different and whatever. And then you get into game mode and it feels very the same.
Yeah.
As everything, right?
Yeah. And after a whole year almost of Overwatch League, like this was just a really cool way to just celebrate the players' personalities and the casters and the fans, and I don't know, just the fan service was so real, and it was fantastic. And I wish that, like, I know this probably isn't possible, but like I wish that they could do something like this. I don't know, at like the end of every stage or something, just have like a night of random fun games and stuff. Like whoever wants to participate, maybe they could bring the casters back in to play. Maybe they could bring in some special guests like Jeff or something.
That would be a really cool, like almost like an after hours type of broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, like after the matches have already played out, then the casters kind of join in, and whoever else is like has an off day or something like that.
Exactly.
And just play around and play because it's a game.
Exactly.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be serious. Overwatch League is not serious, by the way. it never has been. Like it's just like it started off as a meme and it continued that way, and it is just a meme.
Well, it's serious. It's just it's not taken too seriously by the players.
No, or anybody really,
and the casters.
I don't think anybody should take Overwatch League seriously. Yeah,
I think that maybe the companies that bought in kind of take it a little seriously.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think, but like in saying that, that kind of means that like this esport in particular is way more, I don't know, audience friendly and therefore more inviting. And then you see like more demographics getting into this, which we have seen, you know? And so I don't know, these big companies should take this seriously because it's something that's actually popular and actually available and non-threatening to anybody. So I don't know, it's a good gateway to get into esports. And
absolutely.
Speaking of, Twitter is now a partner of Overwatch League.
Right, and so they are actually going to be doing, is it quicker replays of some of the big plays during regular broadcast, and then they're also going to be doing a live stream of the week. Is that what it is? Something like that?
I'm not sure. I know it's something along those lines. Like they've got like a broadcasting deal through Twitter,
right? Which
I think is amazing.
It's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, the Overwatch League community on Twitter is like super huge. So, but then I think the best part of all was when Mickey was awarded the Dennis Holika Award. It was the same day that the Florida shooting happened at the Madden tournament.
Yeah.
And it was weird because like it actually they gave him the award just a little while after that was announced. And so we were all feeling, you know, not great.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that was awesome. And Mickey was Mickey, you know, like he came out and he was super smiley and he gave this little speech about being positive and, you know, being happy about what he's doing. And he was talking about how his mom doesn't speak English and she doesn't really understand what he's doing, but she's so proud of him. And he knows that he would want her to see him smiling the whole time, you know, and that's why he does it. And that's why he won the award, because it's designed to celebrate a player in the Overwatch League who is a positive force in the community.
Yep.
And he definitely was that. Like he was never not smiling. So
yeah, he's pretty great. He's pretty great. So that was the Overwatch League All-Star Weekend. We also like over a week ago, we had the first round going through for the Overwatch World Cup, and this was over in Incheon. And we have the results of that. What are the results of that?
Finland and South Korea are advancing.
There we go. It's just that easy. And the next one is going to be next weekend.
September 7th. It's going to be at the Blizzard Arena, and it will consist of Team Canada, Brazil, United States, Austria, Switzerland, and Norway. So this is a big one for me. I'm going to be.
I'm like rooting for most of these teams actually, which is really strange, but you know that's just the way it goes. I love
which one are you rooting for, Pat? Though, like, what's your? Is it America or
the USA, of course, USA, Norway. That's my heritage right there.
Right.
I like Canada. They're good.
Canada.
They're good enough. Yes.
Good enough.
And I kind of want to see. And I kind of want to see what Brazil does.
Brazil will be good.
I mean, you know, I think that they'll be probably, you know, pretty good. So
Canada's going to beat everybody. Calling it now.
All right. Calling it now. So there you go. I don't know where it's going to go from there. But then you go over to Thailand the following week, and then France the last week of the rounds. So we'll just kind of
BlizzCon.
Yeah, and then we'll see the top 8 at BlizzCon. Is it top 8 or top 16? It's top 8.
Top 8, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see the top 8 at BlizzCon, and the fun begins. Oh man.
Or ends.
Right. Or ends. Don't say that though, because
I'm sorry.
I'm trying. The BlizzCon hype is real over here.
It's always real.
Yeah, it is. All right. Anything else, Fist? On Overwatch League? Oh no, we have WoW stuff too, right?
Yeah, just quickly. The Fall Cup is happening on September 14th. That's the EU Cup, and on the 15th of September is the NA Cup for fall.
Right.
So that's when that all kicks off.
That's when it all starts up again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Well, we will talk WoW eSports soon enough then.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Well, Thist, make sure to check out Thist on Lagging Balls and Battle.net News, of course. Thist, thank you so much for joining me, and we will talk to you soon. Let's talk a little bit of StarCraft 2. Now, this last week, WCS Challenger Series, this has been going on for a little bit now, but this is kind of the chance for players to earn their final points before they lock into the to the players for BlizzCon. So those 8 spots for BlizzCon that they have, 2 are already locked in. Cyril from Finland, who's won everything, and Special from Mexico, because Cyril's been winning so much that we have to rely on points. If we were to look at just points, and I'm going to pull up my points stuff over on the side here, Cyril has 11,000 points. And you might say, well, 11,000 points doesn't seem like that much. But the number 2 person, Special, who is also locked in, has 3,000. So that's, almost 4 times as many points as the next person. Way to go, Cyril, for being so dominant this season. It's been it's actually kind of it's very interesting to watch how this all kind of happens in a season. How somebody just catches fire and doesn't stop ever. And even in the Challenger Series, still, sweeping up a lot of points and all that kind of stuff. One person that I want to kind of call out is Neeb. Neeb is from America and is last year was a really hot player, and this year still kind of showing up to the games and earning a bunch of points. Currently sitting in 4th place, but really close to 3rd. I think that I'm really hopeful that Neeb will be able to pull it out and come back to BlizzCon and once again showcase his talents. That would be really great. And so you guys know, Montreal is when all of the spots will be locked in. We'll know exactly who's going to be going to BlizzCon. And so it's a very interesting time. We will be looking forward to Montreal, but keep an eye on the WCS Challenger Series as all of the players try to get as many points as possible. And that's going to do it for us here at Battle.net Sports. I want to thank Thist and Joss and Jules for joining us today and talking about all of the esports that are fit to print. Okay, this isn't a newspaper, but I'm not going to judge myself too harshly for using that phrase. But exciting stuff, and we're getting closer to BlizzCon, and it's so great. It's so great. Make sure to join us over at ConvertToRaid.com. That's where we have all of our videos and audios, and of course our guild stuff is over there. If you need a new home for your WoW characters on the Alliance side, just check out the Convert to Raid Guild. Why don't you? It's all over at ConvertToRaid.com, as well as the Convert to Raid Podcast Network. That features shows from the regular folks here, as well as from Battle.net News, the other show that this Convert to Raid thing does. So you can find that all over at Convert to Raid. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us every single show, and we will see you next time. Until then, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.